Hello, welcome to On the Ed Son. I hope you're all well. Sunday afternoon here, and just catching up on a bit of the latest news from the footballer world. A couple of results here today, a couple of draws. Arsenal currently losing to Man City, but obviously I really want to talk about West Ham. Pretty much a day after what happened at the London Stadium, a loss to Crystal Palace. The fallout from that, the protests, the reaction to that. But I think first of all I want to talk about Graham Potter, our manager, current manager, because I woke up this morning honestly believing that a statement would have been released by the club to say, we're parted company, we're going in a different direction, we're going to go with a new manager, right? Whomever that might be. The speculation is rife this last week, obviously in the media, mainstream media, and also on all the fan channels, I'm sure, who that might be. It seems as if the clear lead is going to be Nuno Espirito Santo, but who knows, right? So I'm really surprised that the club haven't made a decision. But what has kind of surprised me today and since the game is how the mainstream media, especially the likes of Sky Sports, they've really gone to town. Of what I've seen, of what little I've seen, in all fairness, they've really gone to town on Graham Potter in that understanding now what the fans have been saying, or the bulk of the fans have been saying for a long, long time. He's not the right man for the job. And I have this uneasy reaction to what the mainstream media, all the sports channels say, because sometimes, as I say, they blow like the wind. It's sometimes they're with you, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're with the ownership, they're with the manager, and it really depends who's given their opinion at the time. But I've got to say, what I've heard so far, even from TalkSport, those who are not Jim White and Simon Jordan especially, from TalkSport, they have been largely very much kind of on the West Ham fan side and fully understand what the problems have been. But it really seems to have ramped up. So with that in mind, even if we take out fan opinion, which should never be ignored, but even if we take out fan opinion, I cannot see how the board of West Ham United can ignore this. They cannot ignore it. Now, the fan protests were going on yesterday, and that's all targeted at the board, right? And I'm 100% there. But also the ill feeling around the club is also, and within the fan base, is also witnessing what we see on a weekly basis in the stadium, or wherever you're watching the games from afar, right? It doesn't make a difference. You're watching it. And you're seeing the kind of the level of performance. Now, interesting enough, funny enough, and I said this in the reaction video to the game, I thought we had a better game yesterday, West Ham. In the first half, it was okay, but it wasn't brilliant for sure. There were a couple of chances, and Callum Wilson's scuff shot, should have been better. If he'd got the ball a little bit better from Somerville, taking it in his stride, we might be seeing a different scoreline going into half-time. However, that wasn't the case. In the second half, I thought for about 15-20 minutes, we were giving it a good go, and I thought it was okay. But what really disappointed me in not only Potter, but also the players, not disappointed is the wrong word, infuriated me, right? And I still am infuriated. I still am, because it seems now that the thinking that I'm doing a lot of the time is all about West Ham. And it's not about making videos and all this kind of bollocks. And it's not, trying to make videos just for the sake of making videos and all that. It's actually because it's playing on my mind. And I'm thinking, well, how long is this going to go on for? So the protests about the board and all the problems of the running of the club, which I fully support in terms of the protests, I think, they should be gone, and they should be hand over the reins to somebody else and get somebody else in charge who can do this and sort out the problems. And a lot of these things, the problems with the club, could have been sorted out years ago. They should have been sorted out years ago. And this is what some of those people in the mainstream media who always, God, why be careful what you wish for and all that kind of stuff, and what is it that they want? Well, we want a proper run club, right? And we want a club owners who haven't lied to us and taken us to a place that nobody ever wanted to go to, and deliver on promises that were made, and try to rectify situations, and try to rectify ill feeling in the fan base, and deliver a kind of football that we want to see, or at least strive to seeing, right? Or strive to supplying. But they failed time and time again. They appoint managers, and the way they deal with managers, the way they deal with transfers, and the whole structure of that, and the training. So we all know. I mean, it's not as if I need to explain this to anybody. So we all know what the protest is against the ownership, and we want them gone, right? Want them gone, out, get out, go, leave, sell up, do whatever you have to do, but don't want you involved with the running of this club anymore. But in terms of what we as fans go to see, yesterday for about 15-20 minutes, I thought, okay, we're giving it a good go. We didn't play as bad as we have been. It wasn't our worst performance that I've ever seen, right? Let's put it that way, under Graham Potter, or Lopetegui for that matter. But make no mistake about it, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't acceptable, what we were seeing from players in a West Ham shirt. Even the ones that came on, it wasn't acceptable. It wasn't the standard that we want to even grab our attention and hold our attention. Now you got a manager here that we're losing 2-1. He's making substitutions. He's keeping on players that have not performed again. He's bringing on players who are showing a bit of a spark, who are showing a bit of creativity in the first half and the second half, in terms of tackling, in terms of ball distribution. And he takes them off. And you wonder what's happening. So you're getting boos from all the fans in the stadium who've actually decided to stay. And then you're not really making changes that affect the game. Then the players' heads are down, they're dropping, they can read the room, they can feel the atmosphere as well. Things aren't going against them, gone 2-1 down, and then nobody has got it within them. That's players, that's any of the coaching staff, or the manager, and this is the kind of malaise that's running through the whole club, to actually go out with a fight and chase the game. So this was happening in Spurs last week, 15-20 minutes, nobody was chasing the game, there was nothing. So it's the issue is tenfold here. And one of the big questions we've got to ask ourselves is the manager, right? We want the manager gone because of what's happening on the pitch, right? And you question, well, do we have the players that would suit any kind of manager who was a bit of a forward-thinking manager, an attacking-mind manager? I believe we do, but I don't think that we're going to achieve any high standard. I don't think there'll be a high level of performance and certainly get lots of results. I think we're going to have to see another couple of transfer windows just to bring in those kinds of players. But we've got enough to get by. And another manager would do a better job with these players. I'm absolutely convinced of it. I don't believe that Nuno Espirito Santo is that kind of manager to give us that kind of immediate change, because I don't think we've got the kind of players who play his kind of football and can deliver something that's markedly improved on what we're seeing now. Be careful what you wish for, they always say. Be careful what you wish for. Under Moyes. So let's say this clearly so anybody can understand this. Under Moyes, we had about 10 months of playing football playing time, that was actually really quite good in terms of we're getting on the ball, we're getting results, set pieces, that kind of thing. So that was the second half of the first season where we played, finished sixth. That was a COVID year, right? That was a COVID season. The next season, it was about the first half of that season until about November, mid-November, December, say mid-December, where we were getting regular decent results. But after that, it was we saw the decline there. But because we'd had a decent first half, we were flirting with top four. That's why we could kind of maintain it, and we sort of dropped and held on to about seventh. The first season, the second half, as it were, of that first season, and for where we reached 6th. That's what got us up into that position. So really, you're talking about a 10, 11-month period under Moyes where we were seeing some decent results, and we had we were getting some performances, decent results. But even those results we were getting, a lot of the time, we weren't great performances, but we were taking the wheel. We had that good feeling around the club. So you're saying for 10 months we had it right, but thereafter it wasn't very good football, and that we should still be careful what we wish for. So that's why you're not analysing. That's why you don't see what fans see. So, and the ownership has failed in that scenario in not building and reinforcing and adding quality to the squad to help Moyes at the time build on from the success of the reaching a semi-final in the Europa League, then a final and winning the conference, and then getting into another European campaign, the Europa League, and getting to the quarterfinals. We didn't have the quality, but in the league, it was telling everything. So you got a situation now. You got a manager that is failing, and he's not the kind of manager who can get this group of players together and bring them to something. And I'm sat here surprised that, again, we're showing the same failures in the management of this club, let alone the management of the team, the management of this club, in dealing with scenarios that just aren't working. There's lots of people out there. There's lots of fans who would say you should give Moyes a chance. We should have stuck with him and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we should have stuck with him, right? But when the decision was made that you're not going to renew his contract, we're going to part ways, and we were saying this before. A lot of fans, myself included, were saying this when we won the Europa League, when we won the Conference League, to say, look, thank you very much for what you've done. Amazing. You're going to be regarded so highly, but it's time to go. It's time to go. When we finished in the next season, we finished 9th in the league. But it was a really poor season. Again, quality of the football, right? It's time to go. It wasn't great. It wasn't good enough for us to stay there. And you're thinking, what does a manager have to do to get the sack? What does a manager have to do to really show that you're not the right man? So then Lopetegui came in, and eventually the penny dropped with them. This is not the right guy. It's not working. And he had personal issues and stuff like that. And obviously that's horrible for him, of course, with his father dying as well. But still, we got to put a manager in place, this style of football that wasn't there. I mean, we're not building on from the successes, and we're not going in with timely decisions. You kind of, as a fan, you kind of get lost in this whirlwind of negativity, of wanting things to change, of hoping that things will change, and they never do. And I question myself as a fan, and I wonder, are other people or other fans questioning themselves and say, are we actually seeing what we're really seeing? Are we witnessing what we're really witnessing? I question the ownership of the club, and I wonder, do you understand the decisions that you're making? When Brady goes on to the Talk Sport and says the things that she says, when the club put out the statement that they do, and you wonder, are you actually acknowledging what you're doing? Do you understand what you're saying? When Sullivan, obviously makes the decisions that he does, are you really understanding what you're doing? So by extension, Graham Potter, when you're coming out and you're making those, giving those excuses, those platitudes, and those, you're getting a bit kind of knocked, with the some of the questions that are coming your way after in post match conferences, press conferences I'm on about, of course, and you think, well, you can't even justify your position. You're getting a bit agitated, or very agitated, with some questions that are coming your way, and you really can't even justify your position because you keep on coming out with the same old stuff. I wonder if another manager come in. I don't know what the answer is, because I don't know what another manager can do to change this around right now. Again, I'm hopeful. I believe we should change. I believe that when Moyes won the Conference League, we should have said goodbye to him then, because we want to hope for improvement. We want to build on. And that's the problem. It's the failure to build on. It's a failure to have ambition from the club to build on, to expand, to play, and even slightly more, 10%, 15%, 20% more attractive style football, more entertaining style football. I think most fans would say you don't want to go gung-ho and just, it's attack and forget about everything else. That'd just be naivety, right? You don't want to have that. But you want to have a better balance. And that's what we were hoping for, a better balance. And it's never come. In fact, it's got worse. It's got a lot worse. So, we're criticised for wanting, as a fan base, for wanting ambition. We criticise the ownership for not having that ambition. So we're stuck in this no man's land where we've got a squad of players that really aren't fit for purpose when it comes to digging out fights, digging out results, having a fight in there. They might be good 15, 20 minutes, but that's about it. Not great in the first half. As soon as we concede, its back's against the wall. There are a couple of players in there that try. I'm not saying that they don't try. I just don't think that they've got the mentality to get stuck in, roll up their sleeves and get and backs against the wall and fight for every ball and fight for every tackle. There doesn't seem to be anything like that. Now, I don't know if those are the players, that's what their natural thing is, or whether it comes from the manager. I believe this comes from the manager, that he hasn't got it within him to put that grit, to motivate these players to have it within them, or to let them express themselves, either going forward. I'm fed up of hearing how Potter is an expressive manager, as a forward-thinking manager. He wants to get the youth in. Since the days of Bilic, actually, you could even say with Bilic as well. You could say all modern managers, actually, within the Premier League, they struggle to get the youth coming through. So, but now you're labelling Graham Potter as that manager of bringing young players through. He's not bringing them through at all. He's not even giving them the light of day. So how is that bringing the youth through from the academy? Over the last sort of 10 years, I could probably name a handful of players that have actually got almost regular football. Obviously, you've got Rice. Obviously, he's probably our one shining light, really. But he joined the club, 13, 14, so he's not, exactly schoolboy that's come all the way through, right? But let's just say Rice, right? Johnson. Totally forgot his name. The lad who was on the right back, he sort of broke into the first team. And then they didn't want to renew his contract. They didn't want to give him a first team contract or something like that. So, or what it was just really low, so he decided to jog on. But we got player after player after player who we haven't done anything with, and we've seen them go out for years. Josh Cullen should have been on the field, and then he eventually goes off. I think he had a stint at Bournemouth, didn't he? I think he had a stint somewhere else. He ended up going to Burnley. He's playing in Burnley, right? And we're not seeing those players. So how is now Graham Potter, this forward-thinking manager who's there to bring you through, how is he not rectifying this? How is it that we got players that start in front of quality youth players that are showing it week in, week out in the under-21s, and they're not even on the bench? How is it you're not standing them down from the under-21s and bring them into the first-team squad and say, right, we're desperate to give you guys time, even if it's 5 minutes at the end of the game, even if we're being spanked 5-1 by Chelsea, why not bring them on? Bring them on. Give them first-team football. Give them that exposure. Why not do it? because you can't, because you haven't got it within you to do it, because it's not your priority. Because as soon as you're struggling, as soon as, you got into that position, that bullshit about you bringing in youth players, that's all it is. It's bullshit. So you're not that manager either. So all the things that you're being praised for, you're not showing it. You're not that manager. You're not a man motivator. You can't take a group of men into the trenches, into the sporting warfare arena, let's say. The theatre of sport, of elite sport. You can't do it. You can't get this group of players to act in a way that's going to fight for every point. You're not that guy. So there's a repeated failure from the club to recognise when somebody is really failing at their job and their all-around job. And this almost is, it's like a corruption. I believe there's been a corruption of West Ham, a corruption of our club for the last, I wouldn't say from the very moment they came in, but pretty much. I'd say I'll give them a year. I'll give them a year for the first, obviously dealing with the issues that the Icelandics left as well. Okay, we can't ignore that, right? But let's say 13, 14 years. This is a corruption of our club. This is a corruption of football. You're not fit to run this club. You're not fit for purpose. That's why the protests are there. That's why the petition is there. That's why fan channels have jumped on this. This is why there's so much disconnection with the team, with the kind of football, with the club. That's why so many fans have walked away. That's why so many fans are watching the game now who are not so invested. This is all they can think of. And then you kind of wonder, why is a middle-aged bloke making videos about this? Surely he's got better things to do with his time. I have got much better things to do with my time. But it's relentless that it plays on your mind. It's almost like this corruption within the club. It's a mass injustice. And West Ham aren't the only team, aren't the only club to suffer this, right? It's just that we're the ones probably right now that are suffering the most. We're not the first team in history that have had poor ownership, really bad ownership, that have sold the club from beneath the fans, that have seen something, that we've seen something that was okay. We didn't need to move. We didn't need to change. We just needed a bit of tweaking. Yeah. I always said that Upton Park just needed redeveloping, expanding. If we needed to compete with bigger teams or get more revenue, we just needed to find a way to expand the footprint a little bit. And land actually came up, or we could have expanded up. We could have redesigned the stadium to come up and out a little bit more, so you don't, for those guys in the nosebleed section, look, it's just still far away. Doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're in a football stadium, an athletic stadium. You're still far away from there. But we've been moved to a stadium that, and the whole experience from day one hasn't been the justification. Even now, they're justifying what a great stadium it is, and it's only now that the likes of TalkSport, or some people on TalkSport, and journalists, I should say, more so journalists, are fully understanding what the West Ham experience, what the fan experience is there. And they get it, they fully understand it. And now they're all saying, because it's not a football stadium, it's an athletic stadium, and it's just not working for football. We know that. Why does it take 10 years for fan experience, for fan opinion, to get through to journalists, to get through to radio presenters, to get through to television presenters, sports people who should know this? Why does it take 10 years of shouting, of campaigning, of protests, of different marches, fan channels complaining, all this sort of stuff. And not just ranting. I'm talking about a real insight, a real understanding of what the problems are, and they're just being ignored. Shame on you. Shame on you who've been ignoring this for too long. But as a fan in a troubled club, you get lost in what needs to be done, how things can change. And if they are changed, you want change. You want to see change to get better, because we as fans want ambition, right? We want to see things improve. We're at rock bottom now. We're actually 19th in the league now. Villa picked up a point, so they've jumped up ahead of us into 18th. Wolves are in the same situation as us, right? Well, they're at rock bottom now, but they haven't won a game this season at all. So their fans are going to be feeling it as well. But their manager's been given a brand new contract, isn't he? So God knows what the fans think of that. And let us know if you're a Wolves fan. Let us know what you think of that. Or your start to the season. But fundamentally, Wolves they've had issues in their ownership and everything like that, their model. But they haven't, to my knowledge, they haven't got what we've got. We've got something that's specifically terrible going on in our club. And I get it. Not everybody's going to feel the same, and not everybody's going to feel the way that I feel, or maybe that many other West Ham fans feel, in terms of getting rid of the board, changing so much within the club to bring it back to the fan base, to bring it back to what it used to be. And you just wonder, can it ever return to that? Can it return enough to bring back a lot of the old fans that have left? Can it change enough? Make no mistake, the running of this club the last few years, we've just been lucky that we haven't been relegated already. Just been lucky, in my opinion. Even in that 10 months, those 2 seasons where we had, decent results, there were so many games that we were lucky. But all the other seasons, we were lucky not to go down. Last season was the best example of a club that deserved to go down, deserved to be relegated. We deserved to be relegated under Lopetegui and then Potter. Deserved it, in my opinion, my humble opinion. So if we get relegated, which I believe we're in that season now, if we got relegated, then financially, where would we be? Players-wise, where would we be? As a fan base, where would we be? As the ownership, where would we be? The match day experience, where would we be from an empty stadium or half-empty stadium? Personally, I've said this before, and people may not like it, but I've heard it said by other people as well. I believe that a lot of our problems, nowhere near all of them, but a lot of our problems would be solved by going down. I believe it. I believe it might be a catalyst for change. What we see, what we hear, what we feel. But there's no guarantees. And the same with a new manager coming in. Under this ownership, this model of operating, it's almost like they're bound to fail. Even with these players, they're bound to fail. Also, they might be okay for 4 or 5 games, but then it will start to come back in again. Especially if it's not the brand of football that gets the fan base right behind the team. And you're cheering, you're staying there right to the very last minute. If you're not doing that, and it's a long way back to get that kind of interaction from the fan base. It's a long way back. I'm so surprised that Potter's still in place. I keep on checking the news. I keep on checking to see if there's any updates here. If there's any updates. There isn't. So you kind of wonder, what are they waiting for? You got 2 games Now, Everton away, Arsenal away. Let's face it, they're going to be tough games, right? Tough to get a point in either of those two games, unless there's some kind of miracle. So you got Potter in charge of those. Oh, he's got 2 more games. So you're going to waste 2 more games just to get Potter those 2 games. And then inevitably they're going to lose those games. So therefore you're going to sack him then, aren't you? Then you get another manager in the international break. Most of the players, or a lot of the players, might be away on international duty. You've got to come back in, and your first game at home is at Brentford, where they're actually planning a boycott. Fan base planning a boycott. Now, how successful that is, how many people are actually going to go to the game or not, I don't know, right? If you're going to make a change, make it now. At least have 2 solid weeks of working with players. Even if you lose those games, you got somebody who can go in there and try and change things. Then you got a 2-week break of internationals, and maybe within that time you could actually make some permanent changes there. So when we come back for the game at Brentford, we might have a decent result, and thereafter we might start picking up points. It's a strategy here that they're not seeing. They should have already made the decision, in my opinion. I'm losing my voice. Of course I am. Getting emotional, thinking about it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, keep on watching, but it hasn't been a good time to be a West Ham fan, that's for sure. And it's not just this season. Of course, we can always pick out positives from the last game, but the reality is it's not good enough. It never has been. It hasn't been for a longest time. The decision making right throughout the club hasn't been good enough. They've done irreparable damage. There's been a corruption of our club. There's been a corruption of almost every aspect of our club. Let us know your thoughts. Catch you again. Bye now.